You're listening to the Chad Hasty Show on demand. Good for you. Now download the KFYO app and listen live weekday afternoons 5 to 7 p.m. Central.
Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
Good evening, Lubbock, Amarillo, Abilene, and Wichita Falls, Midland, Odessa, Dallas, Fort Worth, down in Houston, over in El Paso, and anywhere else, inside or outside the great state of Texas, wherever you may be listening on this Tuesday. Some would say a Super Tuesday. March 5th, 2024, primary election day here in Texas. We have finally made it. Votes are being cast, and a lot of people heading to the polls across the state of Texas today. We want to hear from you. We have no guest on the show today for the first time in what seems like a long time. No guest on the show today. It's all about you. It's all about your thoughts, your opinions, not only on the primary campaigns, the primary races that we're going to be talking about today, but also the race between Trump and, I guess, Nikki Haley. Some say it's her final stand. Of course, the reports that have been out there for a while that it's her final stand and that the road is coming to an end for Nikki Haley. We keep seeing that in the headlines. When will it actually be true? We'll talk about that on the program today. Also, Facebook went down earlier today. Did you notice that? What if this were election day and Facebook were to go down for a long time? Well, at first, it may not seem like that big of a deal. A lot of campaigns utilize Facebook, utilize Instagram, utilize social media. Was there anything to this that may be a little nefarious out there? Well, we'll talk about that on the program today, and what would happen if on Election Day, November of 2024, if the social media was to go down, not only Facebook, but X and other social media as well. Remember, a lot of people get their news, get their information from social media. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we could have that debate. But was this a dry run of any time or just sort of a oops that sometimes Facebook has? We'll get into that topic today. Michelle Obama talking about whether or not she'd ever run for president. We'll get to that topic a little bit later on. Merrick Garland continuing to peddle the line about how voter ID is racist in the United States, even though most people, Black, white, Hispanic, approve of voter ID. And we've also got some illegal immigration news. Texas Tech professor being sidelined as well. And we've got a lot of other news that we'll be getting into throughout the show. Oh, Taylor Swift posted on Instagram today about the election. She did it. She finally had something to say after, remember the Super Bowl when people said that she was going to come out during halftime or right after the Super Bowl, and she's going to convince everyone to go and vote for Joe? Yeah, that didn't really work out for some folks. So today she took to social media and encouraged people just to go vote. She didn't name anybody. She just said go vote, and that's all she had to say. But she finally weighed in on the whole voting deal. So we've got all of that to talk about on the show today. We're going to keep it a little light because obviously we're not going to have we're not going to have any type of results coming in Texas until after 7 p.m. Those of you who are going to be continuing with us after 7 p.m. from 7 to 11, we will have election results and commentary, and we'll have interviews with lawmakers and winners maybe even some losers. Who knows? We'll have a lot of thoughts from 7 to 11 p.m. here on the Texas Town Square Media Network for election night coverage. You'll want to stay tuned for those stations who aren't sticking with us after 7 p.m. Well, guess what, folks? You can listen online. You can listen on like the KFYO app. You can listen on the News Talk 1290 app. They're sticking with us after 7 p.m. So you can still listen and hear from lawmakers and politicos across the state of Texas this evening. And, of course, we'll be joined by Steve Evans, who you hear filling in for me quite a bit, and also Ken Corbin will be hanging out. And who knows who else will join us on the show as well for election night 2024, the primary election night 2024. That coverage officially kicking off at 7 p.m. I'll actually be out for about an hour. I'll be joining the show at 8 p.m. As we do the transition there. What time do the polls close? 7 p.m. for the texter wondering what time things shut down. 7 p.m. But as often happens, 7 p.m., that's when they close. But if there is a line at 7 p.m., as long as you are in line to vote at 7 p.m. Now, if you get out of your car at 7:01, you're not going to be allowed to vote. But if you're in line at 7 p.m. to vote, you're going to be able to vote. And what we have seen in some counties, including in Lubbock County, there are polling places that get busy at about 6:50 p.m. as people have either eaten dinner, they're out, or maybe they're coming home from work. At 6:50 p.m., there are polling locations that get slammed. Even in the primary, we've seen this before. So, Texas Tech is a location that oftentimes gets busy. Now, younger people aren't necessarily voting in this election in numbers that we have seen in the past. So who knows? But we have seen before where some of these polling locations in Lubbock County, they will get busy late into the proceedings, and that means it'll be a little bit later until we get election results coming out of Lubbock. Let's see. You can send in your thoughts on the text line, 806-680-2790. Another texter asking if Nikki Haley runs in November as a third-party candidate, will it guarantee a Biden win? I can't tell you that it would guarantee a Biden win, but it would be a lot easier for Biden to win if Nikki Haley were to run in November. She wouldn't win. She would not win. Trump would not win. It would be very difficult for Trump to win. It's going to be difficult anyway for a Republican to win because of how the election map is. I mean, again, this is why I don't pay attention and do a big cheer for national polling. National polling doesn't matter. It's state-by-state polling that matters and swing state polling that matters. And Republicans are usually at a disadvantage when it comes to the electoral map. They've got to win some key states and flip some states, which Trump has done in the past, in order to win a presidential election. Just how the votes are set right now. So if Nikki Haley were to run as a third-party candidate, it would do a lot of harm to the Trump campaign because there are a lot of Republicans, some moderates out there as well. I doubt any Democrats would vote for Nikki Haley, but maybe a handful would maybe switch over and vote for Nikki Haley. But you would have a lot of moderates and a lot of all the never Trumpers would vote for Nikki Haley, and you would even have some Republicans who just want to get back to the things get back to the way they were under Bush and Romney and those type of Republicans. They would vote for Nikki Haley too, and so she would make a large dent in the Trump base. And it would not guarantee a Biden win, but it would come pretty close to a Biden win if she were to run third party. I don't think she will. I heard Clay and Buck sort of talk about this today, and they get into a little bit of a debate on this one. I don't see Nikki Haley running as a third-party candidate. I know she hasn't completely ruled it out. She hasn't said there is no way, absolutely no way in hell I'll run third party, but she has said she's a Republican, she's conservative, she's going to run as a Republican, run as a conservative. I don't see her running as a third-party candidate and completely turning the Republican Party against her. I don't see that. She's already lost, I think, quite a bit in this race, but I don't think she would want to be responsible for handing Joe Biden a second term. She may not like Trump. But I don't think she wants to be the one responsible for handing an election to Joe Biden. 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. You can text in, give us a call as well, 1-800-687-0790. When we come back, your phone calls, your text, and more on the Chad Hasty Show.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Speeding tickets aren't cheap, and they can make your insurance rates go up too. So if you don't remember anything else from this commercial, remember this: slow down or pay up. Also, if law enforcement pulls you over for speeding, they'll check your license and registration. So be ready for that. Basically, if you ever wonder if speeding is worth it, the answer is pretty obvious. No way. Speeding is dangerous and expensive. So slow down or pay up. Be safe, drive smart. A message from TxDOT.
Listen to Jerry Reynolds' Test Drive of the Week, Thursday mornings at 7:35 during Sunrise LBK. News Talk KFYO.
Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate you tuning in today. It's primary election day here in Texas, Super Tuesday, as we like to say. And you've got a bunch of states up for grabs tonight. For Trump, I think he'll do pretty well. We'll be getting into that throughout the show today. Also during election night coverage, 7 to 11 p.m., which will follow us immediately here on the network. Texter saying Taylor Swift has my respect now, thinking of her pocketbook is smart. Also saying, I'm wondering about the dope ordinance for Lubbock that the state will reject. Well, that's going to be in the local election, not in this election. That is not on the ballot in this election. So if you did go and vote and went, hey, wait a minute, where's that whole marijuana thing? That's not on the ballot this go around. That'll be on the ballot for the local elections, which, yes, we will start talking about those very soon. And having candidates on who are running for office locally in all of our markets. If you're running for city council, school board, we invite you to email us and start scheduling out times and days when you want to appear on the program. You can email me, chad@kfyo.com, or just get in touch with Nick over there. He'll get you the contact information, all that kind of good stuff. So. Let's see. It's going to be difficult to win an election when the Democrats steal elections. Well, you got to show up. You got to show up to vote, no matter what. If you believe the election was stolen the last go around, doesn't matter. You got to throw that out of your brain and forget about it. You got to turn out to vote, because if you just stay home, then you're absolutely not going to win. Republicans have to overwhelm the polling locations and get out and vote. That's how you win. You've got to turn out and vote. And we've got to stay on statewide officials to make sure that they're doing everything they can to clamp down on voter fraud and potential voter fraud, and to also prosecute those who are participating in voter fraud. Let's see. You can send in your thoughts on the text line, 806-680-2790. Robert in Oklahoma says he's pretty upset about Kirsten Sinema dropping out of the Senate race in Arizona. She was Democrat, gone independent. She's probably going to hand the election off to a Democrat in that crazy state. It's listen, Arizona, and I haven't looked at the election there in Arizona. I haven't done a lot of studying on that Senate race to see where everyone is at. But who knows? I mean, this is something where, again, in Arizona, Republicans in Arizona are going to have to show up. They're going to have to show up, and they're going to have to cast a ballot, and they're going to have to vote. And if they allow the Democrats to beat them like they have been, then that's on them. Robert also saying he's one of those who will be at his polling place at 6:45 because he's just getting off of work. Well, you're not the only one. You are not the only one. Chad, do you think it's going to be a runaway for Trump tonight? Absolutely, I do. I think it's going to be a big night for Donald Trump. Newsweek, they've got a story this evening. I love these type of stories out there. I'm convinced that Nikki Haley reads Newsweek all the time, and that might be the only thing that she reads. One of the headlines from Newsweek today is Donald Trump's Super Tuesday might not go to plan. Newsweek writes, Donald Trump can still face questions about his hopes to win the election, even if he sweeps the GOP primary races on Super Tuesday as expected. So, you see, Trump is expected to sweep all the states. He really is. He's expected to sweep, but Newsweek is... Nikki Haley Newsweek here is out there going, well, it may not go according to plan still. It may not be good enough. It may not be good enough that he wins all the states. Nikki Haley could still come back here. And there might be some Republicans who still don't like Trump. And there are Republicans who don't like Trump. But to them, I say, get over it. The former president heading into March 5th, day of voting, having all but secured the likelihood of him clinching the 2024 GOP nomination following victories in 8 of the 9 primaries. The only primary that he's lost is the Washington, D.C. primary. And again, I know Nikki Haley likes to point to that and go, look, I won a primary. I don't think I'd point to the D.C. primary and go, I won that, I'm proud. Haley, Trump's only serious challenger left in the Republican race, notched her first primary win of the season Sunday, winning D.C. Polls suggest that Trump could see substantial victories in all 16 primary races that are taking place Super Tuesday, with some surveys suggesting that he could receive around 3/4 of the votes needed in some states. However, despite Trump's long being considered the clear favorite in the GOP primary, there have been some discussions about how he appears to have underperformed in past results compared to what polls indicated, with Haley still receiving potentially significant support despite the likelihood of her winning the nomination all but over. In Michigan, Trump beat Haley in the primary by a huge 42 percentage points. While still an overwhelming victory, the poll tracker suggested Trump's lead in Michigan was 78% on the eve of the primary. So Trump was, the polls suggested that Trump was going to win huge and he only won big. And that is cause for concern. Now, what they don't talk about is, yes, there have been some Democrats who have gone over and voted in some of these races. Not enough to really throw an election, not enough to really matter. But also it shows that polling isn't an exact science here, that polling isn't always the most accurate of things. And that you can't rely on polling to get you through an election. That's why we actually go and vote. We don't just have a poll at the end of the day and go, all right, well, guess who's president? No, we require people to go and vote. In Texas, Trump is supposed to win big. He's going to win big tonight. We still require people to go and cast a ballot so that way we know how people actually voted. So Newsweek is saying, well, listen, it's the Nikki Haley Newsweek where, yeah, Trump's winning big, but he should be winning bigger. And that's why Nikki Haley is still in this thing, is because there's a possibility that there's something wrong with Trump. Well, there's more likely that there's something wrong with, one, the polling, and two, Republicans who just, they're not going to cast their ballots yet for Donald Trump. And let's not forget about this. There's a group of Republicans who are going to vote against Donald Trump in the primary, but they're going to vote for him in the general election. There are going to be protest votes. There are going to be people who really don't like Trump, so they go and vote for DeSantis. They go and vote for Nikki Haley. They go and vote for someone else, but when the general comes around, they'll go and vote for Trump. We'll be right back.
Call in to the Chad Hasty Show at 1-800-687-0790. The Chad Hasty Show, broadcasting on the Texas Town Square Media Network.
I answered the call. Together, we fought for our nation and its people. And even though I no longer wear the uniform, I am still a Marine. My service has come full circle. I will continue to support my country and my community. Then and now, Semper Fidelis remains my promise. Always faithful, always Marine.
Diane from Michigan, a disabled senior citizen trying to get by. Henry from Florida, a veteran fighting to make ends meet. Elena from Arizona, a mother struggling to feed her daughter. Hi, I'm Connie Britton, and I support Feeding America because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year, like Diane, Henry, and Elena. Learn more at feedingamerica.org. Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
The news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. Chad Hasty, talking the news at the start, middle, and end of your drive home, and when news breaks. This is the Chad Hasty Show.
Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate you tuning in today. You can send in your thoughts on the text line at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Linda in Lubbock weighing in. Chad, good evening. Just wanted to share my new name for Nikki, Street Owl. Listening to her is like fingernails on a chalkboard. And from Linda in Lubbock, I don't think Linda's a big fan of Nikki Haley. If I had to guess, not a big fan of Nikki Haley. This out of Amarillo. Amarillo police, 47 people arrested for child sex crimes, 13 kids rescued during a joint operation. The Amarillo Police Department says 47 arrests have been made in an online joint operation with the North Texas ICAC. Amarillo Police Department, in collaboration with the North Texas Internet Crimes Against Children, recently concluded the second annual operation. This joint operation took place January 15th through February 2nd, led to the arrest of 47 people charged with various sex crimes against children. The task force had focused on investigating and combating online predators preying on vulnerable youth. Their coordination in operations resulted in the apprehension of 47 suspects involved in internet crimes against children, awaiting prosecution, identification, and rescue of 13 children from child sexual abuse, offering them a chance for a safer future. And the seizure of 447 electronic devices containing terabytes of information, reinforcing the ability to prosecute offenders and prevent future crimes against kids. And out of newschannel10.com, if you want to read that story. But, that's some good news. Sad news as the Fritch fire chief passing away while battling a structure fire this morning. In a news conference, officials addressed the incident. Said that Chief Smith was the first to arrive at a structure fire this morning at around 7 a.m. Chief Smith arrived, the fire entered the home to see if anyone was inside. He did not exit the home. He was found at 7:30 a.m., given immediate medical treatment, transported to Golden Plains Community Hospital, where he later passed away. And condolences coming in from really all around the state and country as people have been paying attention to the fires in the Panhandle. Our prayers to his family and friends and loved ones. 806-680-2790. It's why one of the reasons we brought up last week when these fires were breaking out, you got to pray for the first responders. It's not an easy job. It's a very dangerous job. You're going inside burning buildings. You're battling these wildfires. And even though it may seem routine for some people out there, there's nothing routine about it. You just never know what's going to happen. And these first responders, volunteer first responders, and those who are not volunteers, they're all first responders. God bless them. They're going in and trying to save people and prevent the loss of life and the loss of property. And continue to hold them in your thoughts and prayers, that's for sure. 806-680-2790. You can get in on the text line, sound off on any of the topics that you'd like to get into, any of the topics that we've been bringing up today. We're going to be bouncing around to quite a few different stories as we hit some of the different election news and also non-election news that's out there. And then bringing you some different results and some exit polling data that'll be coming out at different points from other states, other Super Tuesday states that are out there. There was a story out of the Dallas Morning News that the down ballot races really driving voter interest in the primaries. The marquee races in the Texas primaries lack drama, but down-ballot contests should be highly consequential for voters. Topping the Republican ballot, the presidential primary, former President Donald Trump is expected to easily win over Nikki Haley. Absent the drama of a competitive presidential primary, legislative races driving voter turnout and interest. According to data analyst Derek Ryan, about 6.6% of eligible Texas voters have cast votes early in the Republican primary. That's up from 4.5% in 2022, also up from 5.4% in 2020. Ryan said of the GOP primaries, it really does appear all these legislative races are driving up turnout. Democratic primary low. Ryan says 3.3% of eligible voters cast early votes, up from 2.7% in 2022, but down from 4.7% back in 2020. Of course, all the drama has been in the Texas House. Even the Texas Senate race on the Democrat side, that's really not motivating anyone. Abbott has spent more than $6 million in backing candidates who support school choice. What's interesting about Abbott's list of endorsements doesn't include Phelan, the embattled House Speaker. Yeah, Abbott has really stayed out of that one. That's a race that Abbott has steered away from. The only thing that Abbott's really said about, and I wouldn't even say that race, but just said about Phelan is that we don't need any Democrat chairs. That's really the only thing Abbott has really said, and that was only a throwaway line at one point. You can send in your thoughts on the text line, 806-680-2790. Let's see, some different text messages coming in. From Double R, as concerns about voting security is who gets to count the votes. So there are only voter machines. How do you monitor the vote count? How do you verify the count machines that give you? We need to return to paper ballots. Very strong monitoring of the vote count. Well, there is monitoring going on, and you do have a printout of the vote. If you went and voted in this election, you've got that separate piece of paper. It shows who you voted for, all that kind of good stuff, and you have to submit that. It's an extra little step in the voting process. And there's actually, depending on what county you live in, you can actually, I know Lubbock County, they've got a stream that you can watch, and you can see how everything goes down. Normally at the voting centers, you've got the Democrat chair, you've got the Democrat chair who's there, the Republican chair who's there, you've got you've got a bunch of people who are actually on site, on location, watching the vote count go on. It's not just one person in a room with the lights turned off and nobody watching. I mean, there's actually a few people. Usually, you have some media who show up, wondering what's going on. But you do have people who are in the room and monitoring the situation. 806-680-2790. When we come back, your phone calls, your text messages. How is it voting out there today? Any lines where you're going? Have you been in line to vote? No lines? What's the experience been when you get out and vote? Let us know. We'll be right back.
The Titan of Texas Talk Radio, Chad Hasty.
Talking with newsmakers and about the issues that matter to you. The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Chad's show is also digital with the Chad Hasty Show podcast. The Chad Hasty Show podcast can be downloaded on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and the Radio On Demand page at KFYO.com. The Chad Hasty Show, all across Texas during your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
On the road with Mr. Rhodes. Hey, here's a shocker. Cars are bigger than people. So if you're behind the wheel, be careful. Those crosswalk stripes, they aren't left over from National Painted Street like a zebra day. They mean you need to stop for people in crosswalks and yield the right of way when turning at intersections. And no looking at phones, photos, texts, emails, or holding your jeans or where that nickel fell. Oh, and please slow down. Sound advice mixed in with professional sound effects.
Be safe, drive smart. A message from TxDOT.
And with Michael Brown, Saturday nights at 7 on KFYO.
All right, welcome back to the Chad HD Show. Election nights. How's it been when you get out and vote? You've got a little over an hour to get out and vote. Remember, as long as you're in line by 7 p.m., you will get to cast a ballot. Let's see. Hey, Chad, Zach, and Shallow-Water. All I wanted to say is if you didn't vote, if you didn't vote, you don't get to bitch for 2 years, and it's unfortunate. I know about 3 people who didn't go vote, so I told them I don't want to hear your crap and complain about things. If you're not going to go, if you're not going to go, let your voice be heard. Listen, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, if you don't go and vote, if you don't participate in the process, then shut up. Because it should be important to you. It should be important to everyone out there. It annoys me when I do hear people say, oh, I don't care about politics, or, oh, I don't pay attention to politics, or, whatever it is. Now, listen, I'm not asking you to be a political nerd like me, who watches all of this and geeks out on some of the stupid fights that break out between Ken Paxton and John Cornyn on Twitter. I'm not asking you to be that involved. I'm not asking you to be that crazy involved like I am. But you need to care about what's going on because it's your country. It's your pocketbook. It is. There's people... They give into the fighting that goes on, the back and forth that goes on, the sometimes nastiness that's out there, and they go, well, I don't want to pay attention to it, I don't want to care about it, I don't want to whatever. But you still need to know what's happening in the world. You still need to be educated. You still need to be informed about what's going on in the world and what's happening in our political in our political races, in our political and in our politics. You need to be informed about it. You need to care about it. There are a lot of folks who sit on the sidelines and don't care about the politics. They're not paying attention to that. They can name every, not to pick on her, but every Taylor Swift song that's out there. They can tell you everything about the Kardashians, but they can't tell you a damn thing about who the governor is or the lieutenant governor or the mayor of your city. 25% of people don't know who the vice president of the United States is. Now, a lot of people know who the president is, but a lot of people don't know who their state rep is. A lot of people know who the president is, but they don't know who their state senator is. Go to any mall in America. Set up a table and ask people, hey, who's the president of the United States? Hey, who's your state rep? And watch their faces. And so, yes, we do have a problem with people who don't care about politics. We have a problem with people who care too much about care too much about the national, the federal side of things, and give way too much power to the federal government, and that's an ongoing battle. When they don't know what's happening statewide, they don't know what's happening locally, they don't know what's happening with their county commissioners. Now that's another good one. Set up a booth somewhere and ask, hey, who's the president of the United States? Who's your county commissioner? What? County what? I don't know what? What do you think? You think 25% of people would know who their county commissioner was if asked at any random time? What about their county judge? What do you think the percentage of people would be? These are things that matter. These are things that really do matter. And I want people to become more involved. I want people to become more interested in politics and what's going on around them and why things are happening around them and how it impacts them and how it's going to impact our nation moving forward. It's one of the reasons I do this show. Texter saying that they voted with their license to carry as their legal ID. At Texas Tech today, he said, I overheard people in front of me voting. When asked to choose a party to vote, he elected to choose his dirty lips. Most of the people were tech professors teaching your kids. Remember that when you decide on colleges for your kids to attend. Then Gordo saying, I'm really looking forward to your hot sports opinions on the Hasty After Dark special election show tonight. I don't know if I'll have any hot sports opinions tonight. Maybe. Who knows? It depends on how long it takes to get some results in. And we're just kind of looking around going, what? Nothing new has come out lately. What's going on? But we do have, listen, we're going to have some great guests on from 7 to 11 p.m. Well, I mentioned the article with Derek Ryan. We're gonna visit with him shortly after 8 p.m. on the election show. I believe Congressman Jody Arrington's going to join Ken Corbin and Steve Evans during the 7 p.m. hour. I'll get there at 8 p.m. And then we're going to have interviews with lawmakers around the state, those who have been involved in their own campaigns, their own races. And then we'll visit with some who have not had primary opponents and just want to comment on how the House looks after the primaries. So we're gonna have some fun on election coverage beginning at 7 p.m. We've still got another hour of the Chad Hasty Show. We'll be right back.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media. Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
Final hour of the Chad Hasty Show, and then we transition into election night coverage here in the Texas Town Square Media Network. For those stations not carrying the election night coverage, you can, if you're out there, listeners, you can tune in via KFYO.com or download the KFYO app and listen that way, because we will be bringing you election coverage from around the state, interviews from lawmakers across the state and candidates across the state. So we encourage you to tune in 7 to 11 p.m. It'll be myself. I'll be joining in at 8 p.m. But it'll be myself, Steve Evans, and Ken Corbin with your election night coverage until 11 p.m. That's when we think we'll have all the results, everything. We'll know what's going on by 11 p.m. this evening. Some races will be decided far in advance of that. How about this? Some good news, some cool news that's out there. The iconic battleship Texas is back. It's refloating in Galveston after the recent $21 million repair. The iconic battleship Texas refloat began in the early morning hours of Tuesday, March 5th, in Galveston. The historic 122-year-old served in both World War I and World War II. If you haven't ever seen the Battleship Texas, you've really missed out. Tuesday's refloat will kick off the ship's next phase of restoration at the Gulf Copper Dry Dock and Rig Repair. In total, the restoration of the Battleship Texas expected to cost roughly $75 million. Over the next 18 to 24 months, efforts will be focused on deck replacement, superstructure, and interiors. For the past 18 months, the ship's undergone extensive repairs at the shipyard, totaling more than $21 million. The repairs included replacing over 700 tons of steel, painting the hull, and performing successful quality control checks and more. In total, more than 200,000 hours of labor have gone into the project. So great news about Battleship Texas. They were even afraid about getting that to Galveston and what it would do to the ship, and I mean they were very, very worried about that. So that is fantastic news, and something that every Texan should be very, very, very happy about. All right, you can send in your thoughts on the text line 806-680-2790. Another story. This U.S. story: Biden administration admits to flying 320,000 quote-unquote migrants secretly into the United States to reduce the number of crossings at the border. From the Daily Mail, Joe Biden's administration has admitted transporting migrants on secret flights into the U.S. Lawyers for its immigration agencies claim revealing the locations could create a national security vulnerability. Oh, really? Customs and Border Protection has refused to disclose information about a program last year secretly arranging flights for thousands of undocumented migrants, illegal aliens, from foreign airports directly to U.S. cities. So these aren't flights out of El Paso, folks. These aren't flights out of Eagle Pass. These aren't flights out of Texas or California, New Mexico, Arizona. These are flights from foreign airports. Not only are we just allowing everyone in at the border, now we're just flying them in. Over 320,000 is what they're admitting to. You better believe it's more than that. Customs and Border Protection has refused to disclose information about the program last year, secretly arranging flights for thousands of undocumented immigrants from foreign airports directly into U.S. cities. It means that while record numbers of migrants were flowing over the southern border last year, the White House was also directly transporting them into the nation. Use of a cell phone app has allowed for near undetected arrival by air of 320,000 aliens with no legal rights to enter the United States. It comes after a controversy over a 2022 transportation program in which the administration used taxpayer money to move migrants throughout the country on overnight flights. So this is completely different from even that. Included in the details of Freedom Information Act lawsuit first reported by Todd Bensman. The Center for Immigration Studies found Biden's CBP approved of the latest secretive flights that transported hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants from foreign countries into at least 43 different airports from January through December of 2023. At least 43 different airports. The program, part of Biden's expansion of the CBP One app, which kicked off at the start of last year. Migrants were able, under Biden's expansion, to apply for asylum using the app from their home countries. How easy is that? Isn't that wonderful? You can just sneak into the country just with the app. It's pretty cool. That's great. You don't even have to walk here. You don't even have to try hard to get here now under the Biden administration. You just, sit on the concrete floor wherever you live and you can apply for quote unquote asylum. Now you better believe once you're flown to the United States, they lose track of you because they don't care. Aliens who cannot legally enter the U.S. Use the CBP One app to apply for travel authorization and temporary humanitarian release from those airports. Oh, yeah. And they're gone forever. Under this parole release, migrants are able to remain in the U.S. for 2 years without obtaining legal status. Meanwhile, are eligible for work authorization. So again, just listen to this. Those who are not legally able to enter the U.S., they use this app. Like in Venezuela, they're using this app to apply for travel authorization. They're not allowed to legally be in the United States. Well, we allow them in anyway, but just for 2 years. Now, they can't obtain legal status. They can't become American citizens. But, hey, we're going to let you go for 2 years. We're sure you're going to report back in 2 years and go back to Venezuela, and you're able to work. So, again, the administration, wide open border, wide open border. And now we're also flying people in and just releasing them into the country. Let's see. The administration said it would not reveal which airports the undocumented aliens were transported, citing a law enforcement exception in the refusal to hand over information. New information from the lawsuit reveals the locations were not disclosed due to fear of bad actors who would inflict harm on public safety, or the information would create law enforcement vulnerabilities. What a bunch of BS. All over the nation, these folks have been dropped off. And so it just adds. It adds to the crisis that we have in this country. And listen, I would love to sit here and be able to say, oh, well, they were all vetted. Everybody was vetted, and they're going to be good people, and they're just coming here for a better life. I would love, because that would be great if that were true. But when the administration tells us that everyone crossing the border, they're just coming here for a better country, for a better life. They're just coming here to work. They're just coming here to improve their life, and it's mainly young men who I guess have left behind their wife and children back in the third world and decided to come over here and beat the crap out of police officers here. I guess that's how they make a better life in America. But when we're told that the illegal immigrants who are coming across the border right now are flooding across the border right now, then when the administration says, oh, well, they're just coming here for a better life, they're poor migrants. I'm not going to believe for a second that they've actually done their homework on anyone that they've flown here and released. And I bet the number is far higher than 320,000 people. It wouldn't surprise me if it were double or triple that amount. And it's probably airports absolutely all over the country, all over the place that they've been flying these folks to. With the promise, I'm sure, the pinky swear, that after 2 years, they'll report back and go back home. Sure. Yeah, that'll work. That's worked in the past. 806-680-2790. You can text in. Give us a call, 1-800-687-0790. When you do text in, let us know where you're listening from and who you are. Also, if you're voting today, how's it been? How's the experience been when you went out and voted? Are you encountering any lines? What's the experience been like when you go out or when you have been out and voting? Send us a text, and if there's any lines, anything like that, let us know on the text line as well, because you've got about 45 more minutes to get out and cast your ballots here in Texas. When we come back, your phone calls, your text, and much more on the Chad Hasty Show.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
We live Texas, we breathe Texas. The landmarks, the swagger, and the lore make us who we are. We devour the tastes and the smells of our state. You just might say there's something in the air. So do your part to help protect it. Keep your tires at the correct pressure and avoid idling at drive-thrus. Both help reduce emissions. For tips, visit drivecleantexas.org. Drive Clean Texas. Live and breathe it. Brought to you by TxDOT.
Shooter on the Law with Cole.
The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. Sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. Today's markets from the Texas Department of Ag.
Well, howdy, neighbors. Texas feeder cattle auction supporting prices steady to $6 higher. Cattle futures up. April live cattle futures up $1.33 to close at $188.100. March feeder cattle futures up 75 cents, closed at $252.30. March cotton futures were down, closed at $98.10. March wheat futures down 11 cents, closed at $5.91 a bushel. March corn down 4 pennies, closed at $4.13. And March soybean futures down 6 cents, closed at $11.41 a bushel. March soybean meal futures down $4, closed at $331.20 per ton. March Class V milk futures down 18 cents, closed at $16.52 a hundred. April crude oil futures down 59 cents, closed at $78.15 per barrel. And the Dow Jones down 404 points, closed at 38,585. And that's Market Roundup from the Texas Department of Agriculture. I'm your commissioner, Sid Miller. And remember, friends, pray for the Panhandle. It's still on fire. Sold.
The news and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. Don't you forget about Chad at Chad Hasty Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and on your radio. Now back to the Chad Hasty Show.
All right, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. You have less than 30 minutes to get out and vote. Polls close at 7 p.m. If you're in line at 7 p.m., you're good to go. That's fine. You're all right. You can, of course, send us a text, 806-680-2790. We will have election night coverage on the network beginning at 7 p.m. If your station is not carrying election night coverage, then you can always listen on the KFYO app on KFYO.com. You can stream us, and we will have the text line up, all that kind of good stuff. We'll be taking your text messages throughout the evening, also visiting with candidates, visiting with winners, visiting with some politicians and politicos who were not did not have primary elections, or at least were not involved in a race. They won, they didn't have an opponent. And then I know early on in the program, right after, I think at about 7:15, Steve Evans and Ken Corbin will be speaking with Congressman Jody Arrington. And then we'll have Derek Ryan on, who has just a ton of data. We'll have him on in the 8 o'clock hour, and we'll be visiting with different candidates throughout the rest of the evening. And, of course, we'll have all the results for you, commentary, breakdowns, all that kind of good stuff throughout the evening. So stay tuned. If your station is sticking with us after 7 p.m. If not, come on over, join the party. We'd love to have you with us. All right, Virginia. It's being called for Trump. Not surprising. Already, he's got 64% of the vote. Nikki Haley at 34% of the vote. And let's see, over in the Democrat primary. Joe Biden with 87%. So, of course, Biden's going to win that primary. Trump romping. Let's see. Looking at some of the different states that have come in already. The Vermont primary. It's starting to come in. Nikki Haley right now at 52%, Trump at 43% or 43.86%. But it's very early in the reporting in that race. And then clicking on North Carolina, let's see, Trump is leading Nikki Haley 53% to 42%, but that's with less than 1% of votes in North Carolina. So just a little bit of an update there on the different states. Michelle Obama shutting down speculation that she's planning to run for president. Now, this was something, it's popped up from time to time that Michelle Obama, she would be the perfect Democrat to run against, well, any Republican out there. And I've said numerous times that I don't believe that Michelle Obama is ever going to run for president. I really didn't think she was going to run in 2024, but that I don't think that she does it. Hillary Clinton wanted to be in the spotlight all the time. Hillary Clinton wanted to be president when her husband was president. Michelle Obama puts presidential bid rumors to bed with an announcement she will not run in 2024. This from the Washington Examiner. The former First Lady confirmed she will not try to return to the White House, putting the rumors that she can replace Biden as a presidential candidate to rest. Quote, former First Lady Michelle Obama has expressed several times over the years she will not be running for president. Said Crystal Carson, Director of Communications for Obama's office. Mrs. Obama supports Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Rumors of her presidential bid has increased since her special counsel released a report about an investigation into Biden's mishandling of classified documents, but said he would not be charged. Obama's become popular, rumored alternative among Democrats concerned about Biden's age. Prior to rumors of her running ahead of the 2020 election, she said, I've never had a passion for politics. I just happened to be married to somebody who has the passion for politics, and he drugged me kicking and screaming into the arena. Though she's been outspoken in recent years about her lack of interest in running for office, she did not express concern about the presidential election in a podcast last month. Or she did express concern. She said, what is going to happen in this election? Obama said on the podcast, I'm terrified about what could possibly happen because our leaders matter. And of course, she said that back in 2016 as well. She's terrified. Oh, so scared if Trump were to win. Oh, it's terrifying if Trump wins. He's gonna throw so many people in jail. He's gonna prosecute his political enemies. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's Joe. That's Joe Biden. That's not Trump. That's Joe. Joe's the one who prosecutes his political enemy. I forgot. Yeah, I guess we don't really need to be too worried about old Donald Trump. But see, the Democrats, they have to play it up. They have to play up that, it's going to be the worst thing ever. It's going to be the worst thing ever if Trump gets the nomination. Oh, my goodness, if Trump becomes president, it's going to be the worst thing we've ever seen. He's going to start World War III. Oh, never mind. That could still be Joe. You know, all the things that they warned that Trump was going to do, amazing. That it's Trump. It's Biden that has caused all the wars to break out again. It's Biden who has ruined the economy. Mark in California, is there a Democrat running against Biden in the primary? How come we don't hear about him? Also, RFK Jr. JFK Jr., that would be something if he were running. Well, RFK, he's an independent now, so he's not involved in the Democrat primary. And let me go back to this. I mean, you really don't have any Democrats taking on Joe. You have Marianne Williamson, who's out there, but really that's about it. Let me bring up the polling numbers in Virginia, where Biden has 88% of the vote. Marianne Williamson at 8% of the vote. Now, again, I think you could make the argument that it says a lot that Joe's not getting in the 90s here. I mean, he's the sitting president. He's not getting in the 90s. Well, here we go. North Carolina, he's at 92%. There you go. No preference. I like that candidate. No preference. It's always a fun candidate who's out there. No preference candidate gets 7% of the vote right now in North Carolina. That's always fun to see. And in Vermont, you've got Joe with 89% of the vote, Marianne Williamson with 4% of the vote. So there's not really a big Democrat running against Joe. And when you look at RFK Jr., he's not going to be in any of these because he's an independent. So his numbers will not come into play until the general election. 806-680-2790. So, yeah, Michelle Obama, she's not running. I never really thought that she would, and I don't think that she will in the future. I do think that she would be a formidable Democrat against the Republicans just because she is quite popular in Democrat circles. And there are folks out there that no matter what, they'll vote for any Obama running. 806-680-2790. We'll go ahead and take the break. When we come back, your phone calls, your text messages, and much more.
Somebody's gonna hurt someone before the night is through.
The Titan of Texas Talk Radio, Chad Hasty.
Talking with newsmakers and about the issues that matter to you. The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Chad's show is also digital with the Chad Hasty Show podcast. The Chad Hasty Show podcast can be downloaded on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and the Radio On Demand page at KFYO.com. The Chad Hasty Show, all across Texas during your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
There will be one less birthday party to celebrate today. One less coffee date with a friend today. One less family dinner today. Because there will be one less motorcycle rider on the road today. On average, a motorcyclist is killed on Texas roads every day. When you're behind the wheel, obey the speed limit and be extra careful at intersections. Let's start turning that one less into one more. Please share the road and look twice for motorcycles. There's a life riding on it. A message from TxDOT.
Most connected media outlet for election 2024. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO and KFYO.com.
Oh, yeah. Woo. It's the big stuff. Who do you think you are? It's the big stuff. You're never gonna get my love.
All right, back on the Chad HD Show. Appreciate you tuning in. You can send in your thoughts on the text line, 806-680-2790. Chad, your comment on the 90% of the vote made me laugh. Imagine the North Korean pollster fearing for his life because the candidate only got 90% of the vote. That from T, Clay County. Yeah, that would be imagine telling Imagine telling Kim that. Imagine telling Putin, you only got 90% of the vote. Uh-oh. Yeah, those dictators, they'll put you down for that. Let's see. We've got a few minutes left. We got 9 minutes or so left for you to get in line and vote. You got to be in line by 7 p.m. to cast a ballot. If you're getting out of your car at 7 p.m. to get in line, that's not going to work. That you're going to be a little late, and then they're not going to let you vote on that one. But if you're in line at 7 p.m., then you should be fine. On the app chat, Rick weighed in. Chat, any predictions for tonight? We don't have enough time to get all the predictions. I'll say Carl Tepper will win big. I made that prediction earlier. He doesn't have an opponent, but he's going to win big. I'll say that the infighting will still continue among the Republican Party in Texas. That no matter how the results go down, there's still going to be people furious with each other inside the Republican Party. But let me tell you something. No matter how the votes go tonight, Republican voters and activists, quote unquote, they're going to have to pull together, and they're going to have to band together. I'm not going to use the word unite. They should unite. It ain't going to happen, but we really need to do everything we can do to take down the Democrats. And Republican voters have really got to put some of the emotions aside and the hurt feelings aside and whatever else it may be, and rally around the Republican nominees and rally around the Republicans that win tonight. Some may go into runoffs. We will have some runoffs in Texas, so those battles can continue. But for the rest, the money and the fighting and the complaining and the focus needs to be on the Democrats and defeating the Democrats in November. It would be great to see in the Texas House a super majority for Republicans. It would be great to see that again in the Texas House instead of Republicans and Republican numbers continuing to dwindle. So that is something that Republicans have got to do in this state. They've got to find a way to figure out who the enemy is after tonight. And the enemy is the left. The enemy is the Democrats in this state who do, yes, want to take over this state. They may not be able to. They may not be able to win a statewide election. They're going to try. But they want to pick off some of these House races. They want to pick off some of these down ballot races that are out there. They would love to do it. And that's where the focus needs to be. The focus needs to be not only on winning, but winning big for Republicans. And then if you want to fight about who the Speaker of the House is, there's a time for that. But number one, you have to win. Yeah, there's a lot of time to fight about who the Speaker of the House is going to be, who it should be, who it should not be. There's a lot of time for that to happen. But what matters right now is taking out the Democrats, taking out Joe Biden in November and winning the White House. That should be the only thing that matters for Republican activists, for the grassroots, for anybody who's a Republican, a conservative in Texas moving forward is a result of the November election. That should be the most important thing. And getting more involved in the party, doing more things to where you can have a voice in what goes on in this state. And there are ways of doing that. Election night coverage just around the corner. Steve Evans and Ken Corbin will kick things off shortly here on the network. Those of you not joining us for election night coverage, very sad. Very sad. We hate to see you go. But you can tune in via the KFYO app. Go to KFYO.com and you can listen to us. Most of you are coming with us, though. We're very happy. For those of you who are not coming with us, we'll see you back here tomorrow. Election night coverage next on the Texas Town Square Media Network.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media.